Ready?
I met the girl.
You met a girl?
No. The girl.
It's like we can communicate without speaking.
Are you crying?
I can't leave them behind.
I will find a way to take care of you both.
Now give me a hug.
A lot of news to get to tonight.
And it's good news.
Take a look.
Good evening from NBC News election headquarters.
Thank you so much.
Hey, Sandy. Hey, Gina.
Booyah! Let me show you what it's all about. Check it out.
Listen, we're your parents. We're here to help you. Welcome home, kiddo. It's time to get to work.
Hi everyone, my name is Maria Kay and I am the producer of the industry panels for this year's New York Latino Film Festival. Today you'll be listening in on a conversation with select cast and crew from the upcoming NBC series Connecting. I'd like to introduce you to our moderator today, Lilliana Vazquez. E!News' Lilliana Vazquez is a multifaceted Emmy Award-winning host, TV personality, style expert, and active contributor on E!News, Today, Wendy Williams, The Talk, and The Rachel Ray Show. Lilliana has appeared on Access Hollywood and Access Daily as a correspondent, sitting down with the biggest names in entertainment and appearing on Hollywood's most watched carpets, including the Oscars, Golden Globes, and Met Gala. She was born in Fort Worth, Texas, and is proudly first-generation Latinx. Focusing her charity efforts on community organizations, Vazquez is most actively involved in the Hispanic Federation, the nation's premier Hispanic nonprofit organization, seeking to support in-need families and advocate on issues such as education, health, immigration, and economic empowerment. And I will pass it on to Lilliana.
I'm so excited, and we have such a treat for you guys today. I am getting to moderate an incredible conversation with cast and crew from NBC's new COVID-era scripted series. I know, we're going to get there and explain it, Connecting, which premieres on Thursday, October 1st. What is amazing about this show is that it is one of the few all-new series across network television. I know you weren't expecting a new series, but NBC is going to give it to you. This show is all about a group of friends trying to stay connected and sane through video chats as they share both the highs and lows of these unprecedented times. And the thing that surprised me the most is that this series is being entirely filmed by the talent on iPhones from their homes while being directed on Zoom. I just want to know if this is going to make one of the episodes, because we're effectively doing what the show does. So Linda, I'm coming for you in a second. But first, let me welcome this beautiful panel that I have the honor of moderating today. Connecting star Otmara Marrero. She's a Cuban-American actress, made her series regular television debut in Sony Crackle's Startup, and was recently seen in the critically acclaimed Clementine, for which she earned a Breakthrough Performance Award from the LA Downtown Film Festival. Director Linda Mendoza has been working in narrative TV for over 15 years on every series that you've watched. We're talking 30 Rock, Scrubs, Caveman, Kimmy Schmidt, and Ugly Betty, which garnered her an Alma Award. Her credits also include Never Have I Ever, Babysitter's Club, Brooklyn Nine-Nine, The Good Place, Blackish, and Fuller House, and The Tick. And last but not least, writer Eddie Mujica, a Cuban-American actor, writer, and Emmy-winning producer from Miami, Florida. Shout out to the 305. He's also an alumnus of the Second City in Chicago, and his credits include the HBO Access Writing Fellowship and NBC's Late Night Writers Workshop. I have to ask you guys, all of you, quickly before we get into the questions, when you were first offered your role on this series, what was your initial response?
I'll go first. To be brutally honest, I wasn't sure that I wanted to do it because I wasn't sure that it would be right. I'm like, is this insensitive? Is it too soon? Is it okay to make a comedy out of the times that we're living in? And, there's nothing else going on. So even getting the opportunity to work at a time like this is a blessing. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do it. I'll do the audition. I'll do the first step and just see, what happens and how it flows. And then I started moving forward and I was like, wow, okay. These guys are really talented and they really care and they want to tell an earnest and, honest story. So it worked out for me. What about you guys?
Yeah, me too. I mean, when they first called about it and said it's going to be shot entirely remotely, I'd literally just turned down a job to shoot entirely remotely because it's like, how can you do that? It's such an intimate thing, And,
yeah.
But I read the pilot and I loved the voice and I loved what they were trying to do. And I loved Martin and Brendan immediately upon meeting them. And it's like, okay, these two white guys from Canada are bringing this incredible show to America. Yeah. I want to be a part of it.
Now, Eddie, your cousin Linda just spoke. What do you have to say?
I agree as well. This is my first time as a staff writer, like in a room. So I feel like
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you. But yeah, my agents were like, hey, we want to set up this meeting with the show. And I know that I don't really have the right to be too picky, but also I should have a little bit of a right. So I was same sort of thought process. I was like, I don't know if I want to write for a show that's set during these times right now. Yeah. Keep in mind, this was also earlier when this was all first happening. But then similarly, I read the pilot and I loved their approach to it. And then I had a meeting with the showrunners and I really like where their head's at. So I went into the meeting thinking like, oh, I'll just take a meeting. And then left the meeting being like, I really hope I get to write on this show.
Right. Same. Wow. Same. I found myself fighting for a job that at first I didn't want. And I'm like, wow, now I'm invested.
Yeah, I know you guys were playing hard to get and then you flipped.
Yep. That's how it goes.
Now, this is incredible because I've never heard of a show being shot quite like this. And the show is really intimate when you watch it. It almost feels like I don't have my camera on, but I'm in a Zoom with the characters on this show. And you grow to get invested in them very, very quickly. What do you think the audience is going to find that makes this show really distinct, aside from the fact that it's self-shot at home? What do you think is going to really hook them from the beginning and want to invest in the lives of other people? Because at the end of the day, we all sit on Zoom all day. We're looking at exactly what the show looks like all day long. Why do I want to be in this extension of my Zoom life as somebody in the audience?
I think it's couch talk with your friends. And it's like you're a fly on the wall for couch talk. And couch talk is like, that's why you go over your friend's house and you bring a bottle of wine and you sit on the couch and you talk shit, like I'm sorry for my language, but, you're just kind of like in on personal conversations that they're relatable. They're, of the times, and you feel like you're a fly on the wall, and then not even a fly on the wall, because a fly on the wall would be like a conversation that like you're just like a fly in the wall in your own conversation in a different living room, kind of. I think that's what people are just going to feel comfortable. They're going to feel at home.
For sure. And Linda, you have so much experience directing on a traditional set. How has your experience been directing through Zoom?
Well, I will tell you that it actually has gone a lot better than I expected. Because I was like, boy, how is it? Just look, because like I said, we're in such an intimate business. But I will tell you that it has actually been a fascinating experience. The watching how the crew works with the actors and the patience and care that goes into it has been nothing short of phenomenal. And to see what the actors are doing, you know, like I started as a production supervisor and AD. I mean, I've been working in the business 30 years. And so I've seen everything. But to see what these actors have done, like my mind was freaking blown, man. It was blown. Because then after 5 hours of setup, we had to sit down and act. And they freaking nailed it. And I think what people are going to do with connecting is fall in love with the characters, because it is really truly a fun cast to watch and listen to. And you know, you're in a Zoom meeting, a Zoom hangout with your friends, that 3 hours goes like that. Like, oh my God, we've already gone through 2 bottles of wine. We got to go.
Yeah. It's true. I found that as the episode went to that last break, I thought, oh wait, is it over? No, don't go. You know, when your friends are on and they're like, oh, my kids are bothering me, or like, I got to go, you guys, I'm really tired. It's amazing how it kind of triggered all of those same emotions that I have when I'm on a Zoom with my actual real life friends. And I think that also is a major credit to the incredible writing on this show. So speaking of the writing, Eddie, how hard is it for you to test a joke when you don't have the writer's room natural structure? Like, are you guys texting each other and like reacting on video? How are you testing the material?
I mean, we have a text group for sure, but that's more like just to go over our sorrows. As far as like the actual work, like, yeah, I've been in like punch-up rooms and stuff before, but this is my first legit experience. And, you know, you hear different things. So I was doubly nervous, I guess, like going into it, because it was my first time, but also it being on Zoom and feeling so far removed from everybody. But there are some technical issues, you know, that happen. Sometimes people freeze up, or there's a lot of, everyone's very positive though in the writer's room. It's a really diverse group, and everyone's really nice and funny. And, you know, everyone's super supportive. There's a lot, just because you're on Zoom, there's a lot of like overemphasis on nodding to show that you're listening. But no, it's been great. I don't find that it's hindered us at all. If anything, it's allowed us to be more locked in, you know, when you're staring at these screens and sort of over communicating, if anything.
Now, when you guys are trying to communicate, like if as a writer, you're trying to communicate to your director, you guys are trying to communicate to an actor, do you have breakout rooms within your Zooms? Like, how do you one-on-one? Because, you know, to your point, Linda, this business is so intimate, and there's conversations that you want to have with very specific people about something very personal and tapping into that emotional side of them. So how do you do that when you're on this? How do you guys get there?
Well, I mean, we do go to breakout rooms for sure, but honestly, it's really been a kind of amazing. The process with Brendan and Martin is because it is all very inclusive, and they want to hear everybody's thoughts and concerns. And so I think it's like a really open conversation here.
Very vulnerable.
Specific.
Wow.
Yeah.
Everybody's just like in it to win it together. And that's what's been the most fascinating thing about it all for me, especially. I mean, look, on crews, on stages, everybody's always in it to win it. I mean, there's just no question that OT is going to be so happy when she goes back to a real set with a real grip.
Oh, yeah.
But having said that, it's kind of been super interesting in that way, in that everybody's kind of all in it. Yeah, we do have breakout rooms for makeup and for sound and different stuff like that. But It's
we keep it all in the family. It's a very vulnerable room, and like people come in and out, and you kind of just, if they got to give a note to another actor, they give it to them there, and then we take it too. And it kind of just, the only thing you don't have on a Zoom is the camaraderie that you have on a set, that kind of like builds that chemistry with your director, with your other actors, with everybody, that just like builds that family that happens like overnight on a set. You kind of don't have that because you can't talk over each other on Zoom. One person will get cut out because of the sound situation. But so it's nice to just stay in the same room and just keep it in the family, because it I don't know, it just, you feel closer. So that's like our form of camaraderie, I guess.
Yeah. And the actors are amazing together, having never really met. Like, that's what's mind-blowing about it.
Right. I think people don't realize that. I mean, think about how much connection happens when you have that bonding time on set, off set, in table reads. You're all together, right? You're building that connection and that relationship. So, Otmara, what drew you to Annie? And tell us a little bit about her.
Well, Annie, she's a novelist. She's a ghostwriter for romance novels, and she's very traditional. She wants to be asked out in a traditional way by a guy that she likes on the show, which is Ben. She's a little bit of an overthinker, which we have that in common. She's just, she's quirky, and she's a lover. She has a big heart, and I think for the most part, the reason why they're all friends is because they all have the same kind of heart, which is great. There's a lot of heart in the show. But what drew me to her was really, it was as a whole. It wasn't, this specific project wasn't just like, the character individually and just seeing all the complexities and all the nuances. It was more like as a whole, as an ensemble. Like, every character was so fleshed out on the paper, and it just, the world just felt so real. And I have a Zoom group that we play Mafia in. Shout out to my Zoom group. And we've been doing that since the very first week of quarantine, because we used to do game nights in real life, and then when game nights were canceled, we were fiending, like game night fiends, and we took it to Zoom, and we did that weekly up until like a month ago. So it just felt very, I don't know, it felt comfortable. I just felt in her skin, so it was easy to jump into it. But I think this is my first comedy. I really, really wanted to do a comedy. So I think more than anything about the character, which was all great on paper, it was wonderful, really smart writing. It was really, I'm like, okay, finally, I don't have to cry. So it was a sell for me. If I don't have to cry, it's a sell, please.
But I do think that the characters do touch all of that range of emotions. It's very much a comedy, but like you guys said, this is such a delicate time to be sharing emotions with people. And you do go through the gamut. I remember talking to my friends at the beginning of this, and 1 minute I was happy and delighted, and then I was in a bathrobe on the floor of my bathroom, like in tears, just devastated. So Eddie, for you as a writing team, and for you specifically, how are you able to bring that rawness and that realness? Because TV should be, I think, for a lot of us, an escape, right? We want to get away from what we're doing. But in a way, this is pulling us back in. So how did you use that balance of comedy and drama to create something that still feels like an escape from the real world, but is very much rooted in what we're all going through and watching the show?
Yeah, I feel like, it is a comedy, right? But like, what does a comedy look like in this day and age, in this specific time right now? And given that, the show takes place from the beginning of quarantine up until later this year, as the writers, every day when we go in, we spend the first 15, 30 minutes just checking in with each other, everyone talking about what they're going through. And we've all, not just in our room, but like this country has been through a lot over these past couple months. So like, you just naturally have those conversations, and we like to think that we're a group of funny people. So naturally we find the humor in that. But I think what I really like about this show is that Martin and Brendan, our showrunners, have given us sort of the green light to talk about the things that are going on in the world while also infusing humor in it. So I think it's just sort of been a natural process of filtering what we're going through and sort of putting it into the show.
And Linda, the first thing I noticed was the incredible diversity in this cast. It's one of the most diverse, multi-narrative shows that I've seen in a long time, and it's incredibly welcome to see something like that and to be able to see something like that on TV. Tell us a little bit about all of the characters, a little bit about their background, and how they interrelate to each other.
Are you asking me that?
Yeah.
Oh, so sorry. Well, here's the thing about I'm so with you on that, Lilliana. I've been doing, narrative television for 20 years now, and I've never seen the diversity like this on screen or behind the screen. Like, this is the most diverse cast and crew in my entire career I have ever worked on. And it took 2 white guys from Canada to do it. That's the beauty of
By
that.
the way, a round of applause for them, because that is incredible.
Totally. But, all the characters are very real. And it's kind of interesting because I actually relate to that because I'm a Mexican from Detroit, right? I was born and raised there. I came out here by myself like OT did. And, I had to find my LA family. And that's what's so beautiful about this is that, and I think Martin and Brendan did the same thing being from Canada. You have this family and like you get together on Thanksgiving and you have Easter dinner together and you know what I'm saying? So I think that that's the beauty in all of those characters. And it starts with OT with the writer and then her love interest, Ben, who's, the cartoonist. Everybody has really interesting backgrounds as well. Of course, Parvesh, Gina plays the...
he has a PR firm. He owns a PR firm.
And he loves his kids most of the time.
Most of the time.
Most of the time, yeah.
A very
most
percentage of the time.
And then there's, of course, Garrett and Jill, the most successful couple who hosted all of the Friends there, right? And that's Ben's sister. And
he's a lawyer.
Who's a lawyer, and Garrett is a real estate guy, right?
Mm-hmm. Real estate agent.
And then of course there's Shakina who plays Ellis, who is runs a high-end shoe store. That's kind of like her thing. And then OT, help me out. I know?
Rufus. Yeah, who lives in his garage, and he's just a conspiracy theorist.
Amazing.
He keeps us laughing. But can I just say that we're not defined by our diversity on this cast, and
no, that's true.
That's the beautiful thing about this show, that we're not defined by it. I don't have to speak Spanish for you to know that I am a Latina woman. My Black peers don't have to say that, the lineage of their family for them to own their Blackhood. Like, it's just like, we're just regular people in this world, and we don't have to justify why we're living here and why we're in this world. We're just here.
And Mara, I want to expand on that, because that's what I think is so special about the writing and the way the show is presented and the acting that you guys do. Why do you think for so long we've had to check a box or present a stereotypical version of diversity? Like, why, like you said, why can't you just be Latina without having to put forward like red lipstick, hoop earrings, whatever those stereotypes are? Why do you think it's taken this long? Because I think that is one of the most beautiful points about this show, is that you're right. You're not defined by your diversity. That is what our friend group looks like. That is what the world around us looks like.
For a very long time, this is what it's looked like. But I just think that for a lot of people, it's just not their truth and what they've seen. And so they've been accustomed to think that, if we're doing a story about Americans, well, we need all white people. And then maybe there's that, Latina that her family came on a boat and somehow she ended up here. And it's like, it's so silly. And I think that the real like change is going to happen when you just start getting comfortable seeing Black and brown people as leads of movies and shows, and not justify and not play into all the tropes that, you know, the suits want to see. You know, we don't have to have the tropes. It's not necessary, you know. This is our country too. So I think it's just about getting people comfortable. And the more projects that are out there where you're not feeding into the tropes and you're not explaining why this person exists, you're just allowing them to exist. You're allowing the Latina to be the girl next door. You're allowing the Black woman to be in charge and to own the law firm and to be the lead and to have the voice and not have to like have that, you know, sob story behind it, or how she got there, or how she came from nothing, or, you know, her family came on a boat, their family were slave. Like all of that is just like, that's a thing of the past. And I think that the more that, you know, writers like Eddie just get out there and start making more movies, cast me in it. Just kidding. You know, just no, like really, just really continue making these projects that don't cater to the suits, you know, that don't cater to white people that have this narrative that Christopher Columbus discovered America. You know, like you know, it's just getting comfortable. And I think that I respect people like J-Lo, who was she was the girl next door, never explained. I respect people like Zoe Saldana, who just like, she gets to live in a world like Guardians of the Galaxy because she's not defined by her diversity. You know what I mean? And that's going to be like the real revolution. And I think that that's where we're headed. And I don't know. Yeah. That's my piece.
Linda, you said something?
No, I just totally 100% agree with OT about that. You know, not everybody speaks with an accent. We're not all, I was born and raised in Detroit. My world is completely different. Yeah, did I grow up with hot sauce on the table? Absolutely. But I identify as American of Mexican descent. Like, I'm more American than apple pie. Like, I'm born and raised in Detroit, worked at Chrysler one summer. You know, I mean, it's like, and really when I was growing up, the world was not as diverse, and pretty much everybody thought I was Chinese. It was like crazy. Seriously. So, you know, I just feel like there's so many other stories to tell that aren't just about saving a taco shop or worrying about the mariachis and getting sent home. And that's just not really reality anymore, you know, and I don't think it has been for a long time. And I think that what happens is they feel like if you don't have the grandma with the accent, it's not real. And I don't really quite get that.
And we appreciate all those stories. We do, because that's what gives us Black and brown people jobs, you know? So we appreciate all those jobs that come around that are feeding into the tropes that sometimes you're like, I don't want to say this in Spanish. You know, I'm on set with a white German actor. You're not asking him to speak German. Why do I have to speak Spanish? You know, it's kind of like, let me do my trick for you, you know? And so, but we appreciate those jobs because thanks to those jobs, we're able to work, you know? And so that's great, but we just need to move forward and just make it normal. Just normalize that we exist in the world without having to have an explanation. And I think that that's really just the next step in breaking through.
And I love that you brought this up, because I think this brings up a really interesting question. I think that the three of you represent working talent and crew in an industry that is incredibly difficult to break into, especially for Black and brown people. We know that. We know that we are severely underrepresented in Hollywood, in all industries, but in entertainment, it's really a glaring omission. Yeah. So as we just kicked off Hispanic Heritage Month, how do you celebrate the richness of your culture, right? So Linda, you're Mexican background. Eddie, I know you're Cuban. Mm-hmm. And then Otmara also Cuban as well. So how do you celebrate the richness and beauty of our culture, right? but at the same time try to move away from these tropes and these stereotypes? Like, how do you balance that? Because for people watching this, they're like, oh, why? But I'm going in to audition for these parts that are calling for Latina. Like you said, sometimes that's your in. Yeah. And I think sometimes we battle with that. I know personally, I do too. Like, I do speak Spanish at home. So like sometimes I'll break into Spanish when I'm like doing an interview with someone, especially if it's Maluma or something. Yeah, but that is authentic to me, right? That's not because my EP was like, hey, could you like turn on the Spanish with Maluma? You know, it's because it's authentic to my experience, because I was probably just on the phone with my mommy hablando en español, okay? Yeah, sure. So how do the three of you encourage, celebrate, and promote our heritage within the industry in a way that doesn't feel stereotypical and doesn't feel like a trope? And I'm going to go to you first.
Yeah, to sort of touch upon that, like with the whole industry thing, like I've been a part of various showcases, like diversity showcases out here, and they're great because it's a great way to get your foot in the door. But, you know, there are some situations where me personally, I've been told, like, if you're in this diversity showcase and you are, for example, Cuban, like you need to be, you're in the scene that you're in, you have to have an accent, because otherwise people are going to question. I know how I look. I know that I'm like white passing, but that's a spectrum of the Cuban American, like, we are dark skinned, we're redheaded, you know, light skinned. So I feel like just making sure that you, like, I push back against that, because it's like, that's, I don't have an accent, right? My first language was Spanish, but I learned English as well. So I don't have, besides like a slight Miami accent. But I feel like, I just try to, and that's what sort of shifted me from acting a little more towards writing, because I wanted to control more of the stories that I wanted to see and that I wanted to tell, that are still authentic to me. Like I had a short film that was in this festival, the New York Latino Film Festival last year. I played a Cuban character. It was very Cuban, but it was like very authentic to me. And it felt like the story that I wanted to tell. So as long as, at least from the writer standpoint, I can say that, like, to try to be in control of those types of stories, because I feel like we are the ones that can tell them, right?
Yeah, for sure.
I think, or Linda, you want to go?
To you go.
Well, I'll speak as an actor. I think the biggest thing for me was letting my agents know to just like dig a little deeper and just, you know, look outside the box. And I guess I've gotten pretty lucky with all the characters I played, like Karen and Clementine. She is Hispanic, but it was never approached once. I think it's just, I mean, it's such a sensitive conversation. Like, there's still ways to celebrate. I mean, like, I just made arroz con pollo yesterday, you know, so I can have leftovers for today, because I had to shoot and then I had to get ready really quick and come to this. So I need, you know, like, there's still ways to be authentic to your culture and celebrate it, but you don't have to do the little doggy tricks. Like, you don't have to throw me a bone and I roll over for you, you know, like I am a Latina woman, and that'll come out sometimes. And if I get mad, maybe I'll say something like, you know, whatever, like you'll see. I mean, sometimes in my characters, when I get mad, you see the fire in me and you're like, she's definitely Latin. 'Cause yeah, she's definitely Hispanic.
You're like, she is not Swedish.
She is not Swedish. No, or American. There's no way. There's no passive bone in her body. But, you know, like, there's ways to celebrate it without, and I think for me, it's really just about finding characters that I don't mind if they're Hispanic. I don't mind if they're Mexican, Cuban, Puerto Rican, Dominican. I love that. It's true to me. Those are the people I grew up with. But it's just about not letting my culture, my ethnicity, my race define the character. If I'm not doing a story about narcos moving, you know, cocaine from Mexico to Miami, then there's no reason why I need to explain my culture or my past, unless it comes up. Like in this show, for example, at one point I'm telling my friends, like, I'm thinking about going back to my parents' house. My mom makes the best ropa vieja, and it's like, that, and it's just because that's the truth. My mom really does make the best ropa vieja. So it's like, that's what it is, but there's little ways to throw authenticity in there, to a culture and highlight it without having to bring us down as characters, and as people, and just still allow us to keep our value and integrate our culture, but still be a valuable character to the story,
For sure. Now, Linda, you have worked on some of my favorite shows in television, some of the most diverse shows on television. What are some of the stories that we haven't seen that still need to be told? Like, is there a story that you really want to tell that you haven't seen yet? And you guys feel free to jump in. This is kind of a question for everybody. And especially, and again, I think especially relating to our community, because we are so nuanced. Like, I can tell you that, like, Linda and I have very specific things that we do as Mexicanas that y'all just don't as Cubans. Like, we are nuanced.
Absolutely.
So, I think immediately I always think of like our Afro-Latino brothers and sisters, right? Like, those are the stories that I don't see enough, and I wish there were more. So, Linda, what are some of those stories that you think we need to open our eyes to?
Well, I think OT hit the nail on the head. We need to open the stories to people just being in the world and being successful and being here unapologetically and just tell their story. Like, I don't understand why, I'm like with OT, I don't understand why everything always has to be, because my grandmother is truly the original wetback. She came over like when she was a year old across the Rio Grande. I'm like 2.5 generations American, because grandma was from Mexico, my grandpa was born in Texas, and my parents are from Texas. So I feel like those are the stories we want to hear, like Latinos growing up here and what we did with our lives. Like, there's a story of this woman who came up with like foot pedals. Like, why aren't we telling her story? Like, this woman like created foot pedals. Like, that's an amazing, this Mexican woman. I think
I have them. They work.
No, it's like amazing, and it's amazing why she came up with it. Like, I don't know if you ever read it, but her story's fantastic.
But I will after this.
Those are the kind of stories I want to tell, of people who are here that are working, that have become successful on their own and not because they're Latin. I mean, I'm a comedy director. I'm not a Mexican comedy director. Do you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, and honestly, for me, when I first started directing, there were no Latin shows for me to direct anyway. Absolutely. Right? So I did the Brothers Garcia, but, that's like, one little Latin show on Nickelodeon. I mean, I've never been defined by that. I've been defined by comedy, which I worked really hard to do, quite frankly.
For sure. And I think, to wrap it up, I think the stories we seem to want to tell are the stories that are rooted in the success of people, right? We want to root for people. We want to root for people because they've made it, not because of where they came from, although that's wonderful. But as long as we root those stories in success, I think those are stories that we can all watch. And I will tell you this, there is a lot of success with this show in your future. It's so much fun to watch. Like I said, I think people are going to love it. So thank you for your time today. Thank you, of course, to the New York Latino Film Festival, and the screening of the season premiere of Connecting is this Sunday, September 20th at 7 p.m. Eastern. You guys are going to be the first to see the show, and Connecting premieres on Thursday, October 1st at 8:30 p.m. on NBC. And of course, you will be able to stream the episodes on Peacock the very next day. Thank you, guys.
Great. Thank you, Lilliana. Thank you so much.